Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Kilgore. Unfortunately, we don't have Mark Jager here with us. He was not able to make it. But on this episode, we are blessed to have one of the legends of North American time attack. He's the overall winner at Super Lap Battle 3 times, 2019, 2021, and 2024. He's the Global Time Attack Finals overall winner in 2022. He's driven a World Time Attack Challenge 4 years, and he has driven Pikes Peak Hill Climb 11 years. That is insane. He's the one and only Cole Powelson. Cole, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you on here, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thanks for having me on here. It's a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your background. What got you into time attack? What got you into cars? Where did that itch to drive cars fast come from?
It started with bicycles. I just liked man and machine. Riding a bike, going faster than I could run is kind of where it all started. Hanging around the BMX guys, doing some BMX racing as a young kid. Some of the older guys got into like street racing, I guess, the import drag scene before Fast and Furious. So it's like 14 years old, playing with bikes, racing, getting pretty heavy into that, and went out to some street races. And one of my buddies had a Honda. Went out there and I watched a Honda beat a Dodge Viper, and I was like, wait, Hondas can beat Dodge Vipers,
Nice.
So as a kid, I was into cars, played Gran Turismo. Always just thought it was like something I'd be around, but never thought it would be my life. It seemed unachievable. I didn't come from a wealthy background. My parents weren't into cars or anything like that. So to me, I figured it'd stop at video games, but of course it was the coolest stuff in the world. Really drawn to rally racing. Pikes Peak really stood out. Of course, the affiliation with Gran Turismo back in the day. So it started there. The import drag stuff was coming on hot in the late 90s, early 2000s. Then Fast and Furious drops, and the world changed. It was pretty wild time for import cars at that point in everyone's life, and I was just really
Absolutely.
drawn to those vehicles. I was really drawn to a Subaru WRX at the time. I turned 16 in 2002. That's when the WRX first launched in America. Cobb Tuning actually opened up shop right here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and so Cobb was in town. There was another cool shop next to that called Modern Garage. And it was doing some of the most innovative stuff on cars in my area. So I got to be around Cobb when there was like 5 employees, and they were just
That's awesome.
A factory turbo Subaru was really new, hot stuff. And I wanted to be a rally driver. That was like the thing I was really drawn to. The import stuff was really cool, but I thought driving rally cars was the raddest thing you could do on planet Earth. So but being a broke kid at that point in my life, and still today, I was just, how do I get into this industry? How do I stay around it? It was just all I could think about. Like literally, it just consumed my life. And so Naziok was a forum, big Subaru forum back in the day, and I just lived on that place, just absorbing all the wealth. There was some really intelligent people on there doing some cool stuff. So really got drawn into the Subarus, and wanted to be a rally driver, wanted to be around it. And if you know anything about cars, you need money. And so I had to, how am I going to get money and work in this same industry?
Yep.
So, became a mechanic. So I went to a technical school, became a mechanic.
That's
I
cool.
was the time the youngest student ever accepted into Porsche factory training. So
Wow.
moved to Atlanta, went through the Porsche factory training there. And about 2004, I came out of Porsche factory training, 2004, 2005, and started my career at the Porsche dealership, and just didn't know much of anything. I had some training, but obviously I was working on my own cars and doing stuff. But the entry into the Porsche world, I was like, wow, they build a way better flat engine. So
Now, what does it say? I mean, obviously there's a high cost of Porsches, but you are not known for racing Porsches, even though that is what you were trained on.
dude, I was nobody. I was I was nobody. My race number is 23 because I was 23 years old when I got to take racing
Okay.
serious. And which is a late bloomer, right? That's later in life
Sure.
than,
Yep.
any F1 star, that's for sure. So when I started the Porsche dealership, I landed in the perfect place. One, I got to move back to my home state of Utah in Salt Lake City. Absolutely love it here. Was able to get a job back here, and the guys at the dealership raced. One of the guys I apprenticed under, he's the oldest Porsche mechanic. He's retired now, but at the time he was the oldest Porsche mechanic. Worked in the same building for like 40 years, which is impressive on its own. Multiple SCCA Nationals champion, like through the 70s, 80s, absolute stud. Guy's name's Larry Moulton. He owned the local kart racing shop, and it was
Wow.
like, I was watching shifter kart videos at Porsche training. Like, this is unbelievable. I was so broke when I was at Porsche training, I couldn't even have a car. I lived with five other dudes in a in a 3-bedroom apartment. We all split a room. Couldn't even afford to have a car down there. And I just wanted to be in motorsport. I knew I had to make some money. I knew I wanted to be with a quality brand, fortunate enough to land in Porsche factory training. And the fact that I ended up at that dealership working with Larry and this dude Randy, these guys took me under their wing, and I had enough money to live at my parents' house and afford a shifter kart. So I started kart racing, with their help, and knowledge and expertise. And around that same time, the local track, Miller Motorsports Park, opened up, and it was like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the timing of everything coming together really expedited the process for me to get into this industry, and do it the right way by getting into karts, really refining myself
Sure.
as a driver, being in a super competitive environment, learning the tuning side of all that from a lot of really talented people. That that laid the foundation for me to get into pro racing. So after a couple of years at the dealership, I was able to start working for IMSA, Porsche GT3 Cup teams. I had a flexible enough schedule at the dealership. I used all my paid vacation to then travel with race teams. So I would, leave on a Thursday night, work all weekend, just come into the dealership Monday morning just hammered, just from all the work. Not actually hammered, just hammered
Sure.
down
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those race weekends are so tough. But yeah, I was, able to work around pro racing, still have my, consistent job, still fund a lot of my racing, and be around the racetrack. So all I did was cars, and it was, working at the dealership. I'm spending my free time working on my cars. I'm going out to the track. I'm volunteering. I'm figuring out how all that stuff works. And during this whole period of time, I'm just absolutely in love with Pikes Peak competition. I'm in love with Time Attack. Being the import car guy and the car builder guy, Time Attack was just incredible. That was the thing I was really drawn to. So, watched a lot of videos about that stuff, and just trying to figure out how to make my way into this industry as somebody who didn't have money to be there and hadn't earned my spot. So as I'm spending all this time at the track, I turns out I can drive all right. And I would, have an opportunity to drive somebody's car, and they're like, wow, that's good. You did good. And I would work on a customer car, and I would take it out, and I would, set a benchmark lap and say, okay, this is what your
Cool.
car can do with me behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And I was putting in some pretty competitive times early on. And so I kind of built, that's my career around that, is like I can be the guy to show up, set up the car, build the car, take it to the track, put in competitive time, and then coach you on how to do what I'm doing, right? Look at my data, look at your data, and bring drivers up to speed. And through doing that at a club level and then up to a professional level, I was just able to expand my skill set exponentially, while working with some really talented people, over the years, is what I've kind of seen in this industry is people choose a niche, whatever it is, if it's engine tuning, if it's chassis building, fabrication, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
To be the best, you have to focus on that one thing. And in
Right.
doing this, I worked with some of the most talented engineers and car builders and fabricators. And I'd get to bring them on in different projects. And as I got better at it over time, I got better and better projects. I understood more of what I was doing, what the customer's goals were. And I got to be a part of some really spectacular projects, and it created a lot of driving opportunities for me. So by 2015, it was my first year at Pikes Peak, and it was my first year at World Time Attack. So it's
It's
kind of a
awesome.
breakthrough year for me. And it's just one of those things where I mentor a lot of kids. People send me their kids like, "Hey, he doesn't know what he wants. He likes cars. That's it." And so they just
Yeah.
throw in my lap. And motorsports can be a really discouraging place to end up. You go to the track and you're like, well, I can't buy that car. I can't do that thing. It's like, well, there's a
Right.
way into it. And I had to fight my way into this industry. I had to prove myself. I had to work multiple jobs at any given time to create these opportunities. But I was the one out there creating them. I was the one making connections. I was bringing in the right people for the right jobs, to ultimately reach the goals that everybody wanted from the project. So yeah, that's kind of backstory on me, and how I got my start into it, and where my passion lies, kind of in time attack and car building, and vehicle development is really where I thrive.
Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offered the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs. All engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding two-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand-polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WTAC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team. So we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out.
So you get back to Utah, obviously in the right place at the right time for a couple of these things. Quick question for you is, in terms of, as you were doing karting, were you getting any coaching yourself? Like, sort of, where did you develop those skills to help set reference laps for customers and things like that? Was that just something that you were able to naturally develop yourself, or did you get some coaching and help along the way while you were karting?
Oh, I was eating humble pie. I was the karting guys that I was around locally were extremely talented, and of course they were helpful. The karting doesn't have the same like levels of data acquisition systems, throttle position
Sure.
sensors and stuff like that. So simply looking at G sensors and mile per hour, we were able to say, yeah, cool, you suck. Work on these areas, kind of thing. So it was, yes, I was getting help. Yes, I was getting coaching, but it's like being on track with people better than you at the same
Yeah.
time.
in the same equipment. It's very spec series. You figure out where you suck and where you need to improve kind of naturally. So I was just running as much as I could, even though I'm living at my parents' house. I'm making decent money at the dealership at this time. Karting's so expensive, and I would take out a loan in the spring, a signature loan. I'd go get $7,000, $9,000, whatever, to make sure that I could run a decent program through the summer. And then, as the season finished off in October or whatever, I'd try to just make sure I could get the loan paid off, so I could have the cash again. And in, March, I'd go back into the bank and say, hey, I need another 7 to 10 grand kind of thing, whatever I thought I needed to make it through the karting season. And I'd buy a 1 or 2 season old kart. I never wanted to skimp on tires. You have to have fresh tires every kart race weekend. I treated every heat cycle very delicately. I did everything I could to minimize those costs, and just lean on all the talented people around me. I want to be at the top of the food chain when that food chain isn't respected, right? If you go and you just smash at your club races and you're just like, yeah, I'm the king. I'm the best dude here. It's like, well, who are those people, right? In the local kart stuff that I was at, I was around champions, like absolute top level talented people that would race at like Super Nationals, the big karting event, and be on the podium or win it kind of thing. And so I was around some super talented people who I didn't expect to beat, right? I didn't mind coming in 7th place to some of these super talented people who had been doing it for years. And they were all helpful. The karting paddock was really, really good to me. And I learned a lot there. But what I learned in karts was they're not sprung. They don't have springs. They don't have sway bars. The way the chassis flexes, those things don't translate into sports cars.
Sure.
And I needed, the way I got onto the proper track was I was coaching, volunteer coaching on like club race days to get more experience in driving GT cars. And you need to do both of those. Some people can be very, very top level kart drivers, and they don't have the experience in GT cars to go up and to dominate. Some people can, but I'd say that there's more advantage to be had from being a talented sim racer and hopping in a GT car than karting to go into it like a GT car.
Sure.
So there's different race technique, especially like in the single speed non-shifter type karts for that are really momentum based. Some of those skills translated, some did not, but I needed to diversify my skill set because I knew that there was a career in sports cars like GT car racing versus karting. Karting is a launching pad. It's not an end zone. Some people do make a career out of karting, and they're super, super talented. I didn't have what it took. I think my most notable finish, I took like 6th at Super Nationals in Las Vegas. It was and I'm proud of that. It was a very good result for me at that time. But it was not like people are paying me to go race karts. And that's not where my heart was. I knew that was where I would build a good foundation, but I wanted to build wild cars and definitely pursue kind of more the time attack and wheel sports car racing. So that's where I started to learn the fundamentals in karts, volunteered basically in the GT car paddock, club racing paddock side of things to develop those skills and get customers that were, wanting to modify their cars, because anybody goes and does a track day, they're like, cool. What do I do? Like, okay, well, you need better tires, you need better brakes, you need a race alignment, you need all of these things, like if you want to advance the car. And typically these people have the money to be able to do that. And so in volunteering at the track, I would naturally just get customers like, oh, who can install these brakes? It's like, I do those things, right?
Nice.
And so, that went on for some years. And I'm working in the pro racing paddock, and I'm learning how those guys operate at a very, very high level. I'm working in the club racing paddock, and I'm developing my own driving skill sets, both in, street cars and race cars and karts, while working around the professional level stuff. And I just integrated everything that I knew into it. And by 2014, I opened my own shop. I opened Life Motorsports to do it full time for people, with an emphasis on building wild cars that, people can put on track. It was not a shop that built show cars or anything like that. We tried to do the highest quality level of work. So it looked like a show car, but the ultimate goal was always to get it on track and work with drivers, develop the cars kind of simultaneously.
Nice. While neither of us are financial advisors, I would have to imagine you don't suggest taking out loans like you did to finance your, racing habit. Not always a good. Not always a good. Okay,
I'm not a financial advisor, but I leverage myself, and I've constantly done that to create opportunities to drive. And I don't do it if it's going to be a losing proposition. I knew what I was up against, and if I needed to fast track this, right? Because by the time I got into motorsports, I was late. It wasn't. I needed to leverage it as fast as possible, as soon as possible. I didn't have kids. I lived in my parents' basement kind of thing when I first got into this. And I was eat, sleep, breathe motorsport. That's all I did. And I knew I could pay back the loan. I had a steady job. Making money it's just you're exchanging time for it. And so if I needed to work extra hours and do extra side projects to do that, I would do that because it was necessary. But I couldn't not be competitive on the kart track. I couldn't not have the budget that needed to be there and expect to run at the level that I needed to run at to really blossom. You can't show up on old tires and go to the kart track, because the kart doesn't work on old tires. You can't be competitive. You can't really develop what you need to. And so I think I've done a good job of understanding what you need to do to operate at a certain level. And I personally would rather go run one major event and spend $30,000 a year than do, 6 small club racing events that just kind of is okay. And that's just kind of where I've, ended up in my career is, most of the time I'm budget limited. Most of the time I'm driving other people's vehicles and fitting into their team and, or integrating them into my team in some form or fashion. But I do recommend you take the loan. Just do it strategically to leverage yourself for the best result possible. There was some strategy to it. Definitely. And every winter I was able to pay it off and be like, okay, I paid that off. Now I need all that chunk of cash up front again to be able to do what I need to do. And I even raced motorcycles for a few seasons, kind of using that same technique, taking out a loan. And motorcycles were expensive, and I really enjoyed that, that period of time in my life racing motorcycles as well. But my heart wasn't in it. Like, it was cool and I enjoyed it, and I loved, dicing with people on 2 wheels on track, but it's really not where my heart lied. So I only did like 3 seasons of motorcycle racing.
Okay. So what, in terms of life these days, what are you guys mostly doing? Give us sort of an idea of what life is, how many, people are there, what sort of projects you do, in case anybody's interested and they say, hey, I want to call up Cole, see if he can give me a loan and then, work on my car.
Well, I'm the wrong guy to call for a loan, I'll tell you that.
But you know somebody. I know you know somebody.
Yeah, I know some bankers, that's for sure. Life totally changed. It's not the same shop. It's just me now. I'm just doing consulting. Okay. I'm working with individuals, some that I've worked with in the past, some new clients and friends and stuff like that. And so I started through Life Motorsport. I started a company called Sierra Cars, and that was about 2017. I started that company, and it's a single seat, open wheel kind of rally vehicle. You can race on road, off road, and had that for a number of years. And just about 2 years ago, I sold that company, and to some investment group, if you will, venture capital group. The plan was to take that and make it all electric and Things
Mm-hmm.
just weren't working out the way I was hoping, so I left there back in October. That consumed a lot of my time and energy. And when I sold Sierra, the team, the tools, a lot of that went with that company.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of starting over from scratch in a different form or fashion. So I have a little bit of shop space here, and I've got my tools and lifts and stuff like that. But it's not what life motorsport was in its heyday. I've kind of just narrowed the scope, and I work on the projects that I want to be involved with that interest me at this point, and definitely time attack related, wild build related, and I'm happy to piece all the puzzles together. But it's not the flourishing shop of 12 full-time guys in it building wild cars all the time. So over these past like 9 months or so, I've kind of reset everything, and I have some really cool new ventures that I'm working on right now. But
Cool.
just kind of freelancing, taking on some
Yeah.
different projects, working with some different people. We still have the Life Motorsport GTR.
I was gonna ask. I was a little scared too. I was like, I hope he still has Sydney.
Yeah,
At least
Sydney's
she's
still
around.
here. So my
All right.
homie Kyle, who I started life with, back in 2014, that car is still here. It's still rocking. It needs, we just parked it after Super Lap. It needs things. So that car is not going anywhere. Kyle, one of my best friends and business partners and stuff like that. It's not operating like a real business like it was in its heyday, but the car is still here. I still have a number of my JDM collector cars and race cars and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Working on a friend's RWB right now, and just kind of just doing some odd jobs. I started driving for a new company called Striker. We just debuted a car at Pikes Peak a few weeks ago. So it uses like a Can-Am Maverick R powertrain, which is a 3-cylinder turbo. Worked with some people to build this fantastic machine to go after the UTV record at Pikes Peak. So been doing some of that stuff, and working on a new project for World Time Attack that's
Excellent.
we're going to be debuting.
All right. Well, before we get to that, I kind of want to go back to Pikes Peak because I think this will be an interesting juxtaposition. So on our previous episode, we actually had Shylin Wu, who he was a rookie this year at Pikes Peak. He took his Ford Mustang halfway up the mountain, I guess. So he talked a lot about like everything he was trying to learn and go through. Compared to him, I'm going to call you a veteran. I think you are definitely a veteran at Pikes Peak. You may not, be as much of a veteran as some people there, but you've been there a number of years now. What do you love about Pikes Peak? Why do you keep going back? And then also sort of give us like a feeling for how you prepare for that event. Like just sort of, it's a very unique event, I have to imagine. So give us sort of your 11 years of experience going to that event. What is it like for you?
Man, it's just the most unique, as you stated. There's nothing else like it. The challenges presented from Pikes Peak are unlike anything else you can't practice or train for. Is a driver, you need to be physically fit, right? You're racing to 14,000 feet of altitude, and the challenges with the car, cooling systems, you can't test anywhere that's going to present the same challenges. The 5,000 feet of elevation gain, the thin air that you experience up top, the difference in course conditions from the start line to the finish line. Nothing else like it on Earth. Pikes Peak has been running well over 100 years for a reason, because it brings some of the most unique challenges in the world of racing, and it's an extremely dangerous place to race as well. There's huge consequences there to match as well. So I love it as a driver because of the challenges. I love it as a car builder because of the challenges. I love the mountains and I love race cars. Those things, are perfectly married together at that unique event. If you were to go and pitch this to Colorado Springs today and say, hey, we want to race up this mountain, and the race didn't exist, no way. You'd be completely shut down. But because that road was basically built for people to race up back in 1916, the event still stands today, and it's one of the most historic, notable races on Earth. So it brings
it is still wild to me that on practice days, you guys have to get up at like 3:00 in the morning because they open up the traffic. They open up the mountain to public traffic at what, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Just like it's a normal day. I mean, it's crazy to me.
364 days a year, that's a toll road. One day they let us race up it. And one of those unique challenges of Pikes Peak is you don't get to run the whole mountain until race day, and then you only get one shot at it. So you get to practice. It's a full week event. You tech on Monday, Tuesday, 2 a.m. the alarm clock goes off. You're to the gate by 3. Hopefully you're to your pit spot by 3:30, 3:45, something like that. The first little glimmer of light in the morning around 5:30, they're sending cars. So you get to practice for a few hours on this one particular third of the mountain, lower, middle, or upper section. For a few hours, you might get 2 runs, 3 runs. I've gotten as many as 4 runs on a particular section on a practice day. But extremely limited practice time under really tough conditions. And then get off the mountain or you're getting fined. You got to pack up and load out because they're trying to get, toll paying customers to the summit,
Right.
So, race day is a bit different. Your pits are set up, you still have to be there early, not quite 3 a.m. early, but you sit there with an extreme amount of pressure as the green flags start dropping and they start sending cars off the start line as anticipation builds for your run. And you get one shot. And then, no matter what happens, you have to wait a year for that same opportunity to present itself.
Yep.
And it's extremely challenging, extremely difficult. It's hard on you physically, mentally. And I think that's why I keep going back. A lot of people will go there and spectate and say, this isn't for me. Some people go there one time and be like, cool, I did it, I'm done. But I think it's one of the last places on Earth where, the small teams can go up against the giants, some of these factory-backed teams. And last year I had a fantastic year. I won the open wheel class. I was the fastest American driver, finished 4th overall. It was just a dream come true kind of result for me. But it came after 10 years of hard work to be able to put myself in that position to get that result. And I'll never forget my first sub 10-minute run there because that was always my original goal. And then I'll never forget my first win there. There's a few very specific memories. Those are 2 results-based memories that I have that really are extremely gratifying for me because I know I put in the work, I put in the time to go and earn that. And nobody just shows up and cleans house, right? People that do well there are typically people who put in a lot of time or have factory-backed programs. There's a lot of testing and experience that go and get these results. So there's no other place on Earth that I know of that you can go to a venue like that, let alone go against some of the top drivers and factory teams in the world to go and do battle. So because of that, it's an event that is absolutely on my calendar every single year, and I'll keep doing it until it's not fun anymore.
Cool. So I guess this is a bit more in terms of like some of the technical aspects, but I've never really seen, I've only partly seen what the paddock looks like. How did they sort of set that up? And then do they give you like, because obviously you qualify, that sort of sets with your position, but depending on if there's stoppages, depending on how fast people are going, depending on if you're going all the way up the mountain, will depend on when you actually have to go to the start line. How do they give you like a 10-minute warning, a 30-minute warning or anything like that for you to have time to prep the car? Or is it a bit of a mad rush to get the car prepped and then for you to get to the line?
You have some idea based off your qualifying order when you're going to go, but that is a very rough idea. Like this year, for example, there's a 3-hour delay to even get started. And then we only ran to the halfway point due to extreme weather at the summit. So they'll come over and they'll say, hey, your car 20, we're at car 10. And you can say, okay, roughly each interval for each car is going to be about 4 minutes. So best case scenario,
Okay.
40 minutes, right? But it's never best case scenario. It never goes that smooth. And so there's always delays. But there's a number of people that come over and tell you, hey, you're a few cars out, start getting your gear on, stuff like that.
Okay.
And the paddock is basically a small parking lot with long parking spots. Like if you're fortunate enough to get a good enough spot, you can park a small single car trailer and your car, right? In the best case scenario. Usually it's just basically like a big parking spot. If you have a 10 by 20 easy up and some space for toolboxes kind of thing. And that's it. You got a generator for some tire warmers and that's really all you have on your pit space for race day. So they pack them in there tight. We had 74 competitors at Pikes this year in a super tight little paddock, and then you've got the big screen showing the live stream, and a lot of stuff packed into a small tight area, and it's pretty intense. Anticipation is high. You've got spectators there, you've got all the racers there. It's a pretty electric atmosphere.
Yeah. Is it better to go early in qualifying or later? I have to imagine the longer it goes, the more that anticipation builds.
Oh man, I didn't qualify one year and I went last and it was
Oh God.
But oddly enough,
brutal.
So the general rule of thumb there is you want to qualify better because of the weather. Out of the 11 years I've been up there, 6 of the years, if they even allowed us to run to the summit on race day, there's been rain, hail, or snow. I have pictures of my car up there on the summit covered in snow, the whole car covered in snow.
Wow.
You're like, oh, I hope they can clear the roads. I'm like,
did you carry a jacket up in the car with you to get to the summit?
Oh, 100%. You send gear up. So they send a truck up early in the morning.
Okay.
You got to have the truck loaded like 5:30. So you send yourself a gift package up to the top with like a winter jacket and some snacks and whatever you want when you get up there. So you put a little bag in the truck. They take it up to the summit. So
that's cool.
When you make it up there, you got something. But the worst part is if you go early and let's say you make it 3/4 of the way up, now you got to sit on some corner for the next 7-8 hours while everybody else makes their runs. Hopefully you're near a corner worker and they've got some bottle of water or something to hold you over. But there's worse places to be than the summit for sure. But yeah, general rule of thumb, you want to qualify as early as possible to beat the weather because those weather patterns typically roll in the afternoon historically. So you don't want to be the first 5 cars. Those are the street sweepers, and then beyond that, the course conditions are really good to go in the beginning of the morning. So what they do now is they send like the exhibition class first, and what they just started doing this year is they'll send the fastest 3 qualifiers from each respective class after that, so they have good road conditions, good weather, and then they run from fastest to slowest for the remainder of the order.
Okay. So this is going to lead me into something else that I've been thinking of recently, but I mean, do you consider Pikes Peak to be time attack?
100%.
Or a version of time attack? All right.
It is. Yeah. It's point to point instead of a circuit, but it's time attack. Yeah. It is 100% time attack. It's the spirit of time attack. You've got the home built cars, you've got the full professional built cars, but most everything that's built there is specific to do Pikes Peak. You can take your GT3 car and put some wings on it and go over, but I've never seen so many twin turbo GT3 cars, right? It's with crazy arrows. So it very much is time attack. You're not on a circuit, but your time is what matters. It is the benchmark which everybody measures themselves to. And you get to be really creative in the type of builds that you do to go and tackle that type of event. So yeah, it's not traditional time attack like a circuit, but it's time attack.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I think you could make an argument that it could be one of the purest forms of time attack in terms of you can pretty much build whatever you want to. They have a class for it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not even something where you get multiple runs. You don't even get to practice the entire course. You get that one run in one day, and that is it, right? Like, you want to talk about pressure and having that one perfect lap to lay it all down. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't. The stage is set, man, and it's an extreme amount of pressure. You don't get to warm up and feel things out.
Right.
There's no out lap. It's like you roll to the start line. You hope your tire warmers were all plugged in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you
I
take the green
guess
flag, and it's 10
yeah.
tenths right off the bat.
What's the distance from the green flag to the actual start line? I mean, I know you have that little bit of a bend. I guess that's your out lap. That's your warm up.
Yeah, I guess I suppose so.
50 yards or something like that. I don't even know.
It's maybe 50 yards, something like that, from the flagger, because it is you roll into the start. So from there forward,
that's wild.
But once the flag waves, like you can't be like, oh, push me back, I want to restart. Like, that's it, dude. Like,
no,
you don't even have to clear the timing marker. That's it, dude. The flag waves.
Yeah.
So hopefully you got it done.
Oh man. Well, that sort of brings me something that I've been thinking of recently, especially having you come on here. I've been thinking of all of these events that you've been able to do, World Time Attack, Pikes Peak. You've done Super Lap Battle a number of years. You've done various other some other time attack events, which kind of made me wonder, have you ever gone to Tsukuba or done anything there in Japan?
I've been there twice for their big time attack event. I haven't driven it yet, and it's a dream to drive it. I'm sure I'll get my opportunity at some point, but I've watched records fall there. I've watched my heroes run around the track. This last February in Tsukuba was the biggest event that they've had. It just really shows the growth of time attack globally. A lot of spectators, a lot of rad cars. It was a phenomenal event.
That's awesome.
It makes my inner JDM fanboy so happy to be there and see all those people and see all those cars.
Yeah.
It's a small track, but it's very much, it's where time attack started. And the legend is strong there. Like you feel it, you walk through the tunnel to enter that place, and it's like, damn, this place is special.
That's cool. Well, all of this brings me to the question of, obviously, there is a motorsports triple crown, so to speak, right? You have Le Mans 24, you have the Indy 500, and then you have the Monaco Grand Prix. And it kind of got me thinking, like, if we could make a time attack triple crown, what would it look like? Like, what would it be? And I think you'd have to maybe say World Time Attack probably has to be on there, right? As one of the crown jewels of competing at and winning. And then I started to, Tsukuba, that could definitely be one in terms of, I mean, it's so historic, kind of the birthplace of time attack, But then it also sort of made me think, like, I think Pikes Peak might be on that list in terms of a triple crown of time attack. It's a little bit different, but we both agree it's still time attack. And I mean, like, for those three events, are those sort of the three pinnacle events in the world for what we might consider the triple crown? Do you think there's others? Do you totally disagree with me? Do you think I'm just crazy for coming up with this idea?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. That is, it's 100%, and that's where I put my time and energy in. And Tsukuba is just one that I haven't clicked off the list. Pikes Peak appeals to me more than any other race. I want to be the rally driver, right? That was my childhood dream.
Yeah.
And but I ended up entering the kind of asphalt world. So definitely the atmosphere, the environment of Pikes Peak, the quality of the cars, uniqueness of the cars, the grassroots feel of it, blending with the top level cars. That's time attack to me. I love the home built cars. The guy that was tinkering in his garage for years to build this car, he can go to Pikes Peak. The factory Ford effort with tens of millions of dollars, they go to Pikes Peak. It means something to everybody, and it's great for the spectators. At the end of the day, like, we don't have events if people aren't showing up to watch these. If eyes aren't on the products, why would somebody sponsor the vehicle? So it has to be entertaining. It has to be interesting to all different types of people, not just the total gearheads that geek out on this stuff. Like it's got to be cool and unique to everyone, and it's got to resonate with people, because in the pro racing paddock, the atmosphere is dry. It's once I've worked these races, I've been to these races, I've done these things, and I'd love to engage with fans. So fans come up, they like, hey, it's father daughter, and they're like, hey, my daughter's interested in cars, she wants to race or whatever. And it's like, hey, cool, come over, hop in this car, and like, she's racing karts and she's doing really good. And like, what's it take to do something like this? And like, it's like, $2 million get you started. It's like, you just see the soul get sucked out of them. They can't even fantasize about doing it. Where you go to an event like Pikes Peak, and it's like, you take somebody with a little bit of talent and some work and some time with a blue collar income, they can fantasize about being there on the same day that the biggest teams in the world are showing up to do the same thing. And the pro race paddock just has a way of sucking the soul out of people to where you can't even dream about being there, and it feels so out of place. I think they have a hard time, attracting fans for that reason, regardless of how good the racing might be at a particular venue. When you steal the soul out of it and you can't even fantasize about participating, it sucks, man. It sucks to be a fan that wants to be involved as a competitor. But when you go to an event like Pikes or Tsukuba, like World Time Attack, even those are places where when they do the pit walk at World Time Attack, and I do the same engagement with fans, they can then fantasize about being there on that day as a competitor. And you can't do that at so many other pro race paddocks. It just, because I'm real with them about the budgets and what it takes to get there. But if you look at like a club sprint car at World Time Attack now, and then the new tuner class, it's like, you can do that. That is a thing that you can do. You can be a part of this event. There's 30,000 fans there. There's millions of people on the live stream at World Time Attack. Like, this is something you can do. You can fantasize about getting here and doing it. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time, but you can do it. And it's like a really invigorating feeling for people to experience that, like, man, I can do this. And I experienced that as a young man, but never in the pro racing paddock. So being able to me, that's a lot of the spirit of Time Attack, is like knowing that it's inclusive for people at all different levels. Here you have pro teams spending a couple $1 million to build and campaign a car. Like, that's rad. I want to see that car. But guess what? I'm going out the next session. I'm going to be on the same track that these guys just drove on, in front of these same amount of spectators. That is incredible. So that to me is really special. It's really entertaining. It's really engaging, and it's the true spirit of Time Attack, in my opinion. World Time Attack offers that. Pikes Peak offers that. Tsukuba offers that, and it's a really refreshing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, and it doesn't matter. You can, and in some ways, I think it's kind of cool where you have guys, drivers with, very stock looking, Honda Civics or whatever, right? But they're out there at the track, and there are fans and people who come up and they will be like, dude, I love seeing your Civic out there. I love seeing you out there. And then, 5 cars down, you can have a crazy car like Sydney. You can have Ferris's, crazy Corvette, these unlimited cars, and they're all on the same piece of pavement. And everybody, loves seeing these various types of builds out there. I mean, it's, and whenever you have someone kind of come up and want to talk to you about your car, like, to me, it doesn't matter how bad that day has been going. But when someone comes up, like, it immediately kind of perks you up, and you're like, oh yeah, let me tell you about how bad this sucks right now, but like, I still love my car, right? Like, the engine's blown up, the turbos, whatever. We're trying to fix the transmission, but man, this is awesome. Let me tell you about it.
it's so important. I am a fan, in that respect, and I
Yep.
love the engagement that we're able to get, and a lot of it comes from people having a particular car that they like. Because you mentioned the Honda stuff, like the Honda people are diehard, and when they say like, oh, there's this EG hatch out on track, like they don't even care what the lap time is. They care
Yeah.
that this car that they find interesting and that they had or have today is out on track. They want to come and learn more about it, and like it opens up their world, and now that they can fantasize about modifications that they can do to their car, or maybe even picture themselves being on track doing something similar. That relatable, creative approach where all these cars are unique and it's not just another spec race series really resonates with people. And I think it's super important to the future of motorsport to have that sort of engagement and have something that's attainable and just not off on a far distant planet for them to even imagine being a part of.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's awesome. I love it too. Let's kind of move on to World Time Attack Challenge. And so I want to ask you a question just because I'm genuinely curious, and I know that you're sort of. I've heard you're the guy to go to in the U.S. if you want to get a car to World Time Attack Challenge. You're the guy who can make it happen. You're the logistics guy who can get everything together. So if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, right, like, I've got the car. What's the budget for someone in the U.S. to get to World Time Attack Challenge, regardless if it's tuner, club sprint, pro, anything like that?"
It's a great question, and there's a lot of ways to do it, right? And so I'll preface this by saying, getting to World Time Attack, once you commit and you're actually doing it, it's the easiest way to get sponsors, to get people involved and on board, because there's so many eyes on the car down there. It's a well-oiled machine. So anytime I approach somebody, say, hey, I've got this car, I'm running this program, I want to go to World Time Attack, can I get some help, right? Can I get some funding? Can I get parts? Can I get whatever to help make this thing go? And it's one of, if not the easiest events to get support for, because they know they're going to get ROI, they're going to get views on their product, they're going to get the media out of it. It's a lot easier to bridge that gap. So with that being said, you can spend anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 has been the typical like go to get it down there. Yeah.
I know that sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, for an event like that, that is very reasonable.
It is as far as motorsport goes, like I don't think I've spent less than $20,000 on doing Pikes Peak, and that's one state away, right? It's like I said, there's a lot of different ways to do it. In that $20,000 to $40,000 range is typically the number that people land on. And are you bringing 10 crew, right? Are they volunteering? Do they want to get paid? Are you guys splitting hotel rooms? Are you splitting hotel beds, right? What limits are you willing to go and get down there? And so it's a wide number. But I'd say if you committed to World Time Attack early and said, okay, I need to go earn $20,000. My crew's down to volunteer. All we got to do is come up with airfare. We found, some budget for shipping the car, stuff like that. Cole's going to help us out with logistics and whatever it is. You can do that and make it happen. And if you start early enough, it's relatively easy to get funding for something like that. If you go and hit up, you find 4 companies that are going to give you $5,000. Not that crazy of a number,
right?
To find 4 companies and do the media. Put it on your phone. Everybody has a phone, right? And say, they think so-and-so sponsor, this is what the parts that we run on our car, and they made this trip possible. We're going to document the trip and keep taking care of the people that take care of you. But a $5,000 budget to be a part of a world-class event with eyes all over the world on a particular brand, with media that you can produce on your phone, it's not a big ask. And for an event like that, you go and run your like NASA Club track day. Nobody's watching.
Right. Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
prestige in that, so it's a hard thing to go and get funding for. So, it's one of those events where, okay, $20,000 to $40,000 may sound like a lot of money, but the event has a prestige in the poll that you can go and leverage that and say, hey, I've committed. I know I'm going to front the money. I'm going. And I'm going to reach out to my sponsors and partners and potential new partners and sponsors early and say, hey, I'm committing to going and doing this. We're looking for $5,000. If you could help us out with that, here's what you're going to get in return. You're going to get branding on the car. You're going to be on the live stream. We're going to tell the story of getting the car down there and do the whole deal. There's a lot of value in that for them because there's guaranteed eyes on it. There's a story to be told. Right. It's a world-class event. There's so many spectators that make it through the gate. Versus you could run every NASA event in your region for 10 years and not get the same amount of eyes on the car as you would at one World Time Attack. So
sure,
it's one of those numbers like, okay, yeah, it's a legitimate number, but it has that leverage to be able to pay for itself entirely.
Yeah. Well, and also I have to commend you as well. I think you're a big part of that ROI because, Ian and the guys down there at World Time Attack, when the Americans, quote, right, when the Americans come, it's a big deal for them. They love having us and cars from America there. And so I think that they always make it a point to, right, identify those cars, give them airtime. I mean, Mike last year in his, Ferrari, I mean, he was having a rough go at it, but like, it's a cool car. If you show up with a cool car, something that's unique, I mean, you've been there and paved the way for a lot of other Americans to go. And I hope that we continue to see that build, and more people show up and really start taking it seriously. Because, I mean, I think it's kind of, and I'd love to get your opinion here. Like, I mean, super lap battle's great. Finals is great, and there are some fast cars, but by and large, I mean, the American time attack scene is just not what it is for World Time Attack Challenge. I mean, right? Like that is the pinnacle event. And it would be fun to kind of see those benchmarks. What do guys here in the US when they show up and they go overseas, what do they run and where do they stack up? And I would love to see more of that. And I mean,
you're going to see more of that. And it's not that we don't have capable builders here. There's plenty of cars that could be built to that level. They haven't been given a good reason to. World Time Attack is the good reason to. And I eat humble pie when I go to World Time Attack. I'm a big fish here in the States, but I go down there.
Right.
RP968, dude, 9 seconds faster.
Yeah, dude,
9 seconds faster, dude. The car is on another planet, and nobody's real close to them right now. Under Suzuki was probably the closest competitor before he had that big failure, suspension failure. It wasn't a tire like most people think, and that took that car out of commission. When I was in Japan in February, went over and saw him, and I'm repping his shirt right now.
There you go. Yeah.
Visited him, saw the car at the shop, and that could run those sort of times. But those cars are on another planet compared to U.S. Time Attack. But they haven't been given the reason to do it, right? I'll let you in on a little secret. World Time Attack is going to race in the United States. It's going to have an event in the United States.
All right.
It's not quite sure.
It's coming. It's coming.
All
right.
I'm dear friends with Ian Baker. Him and I are working together to make it a reality. We believe in the American Time Attack scene. We believe these cars are here. We believe that international competitors also want to come here. And there's another little secret about a U.S. Time Attack car I'll get to in a minute.
All right. That is, we're dropping bombs on this podcast, man. I love it.
But you can fully expect that because the caliber of cars and builders are here. They just haven't been given the reason to come out and do it. in the capacity that's needed. What happened in Australia and what happened in the U.S., two differing projections of different sports. So early on, you had drift and time attack that existed in Australia, that existed in the U.S. Okay, as these teams took off in the U.S., time attack caught a bad rap. There was a time attack series. I'll spare the details, but it didn't exactly treat the team sponsors and stuff like that very well as it was really rising in popularity. It was showing to be more popular than drift. It's kind of things shifted from the import drag racing scene. So they burned some people in the U.S. time attack scene, and it hurts everybody. And that changed the entire trajectory of time attack in the U.S. And what you saw was Formula Drift get all the attention, all the eyes, all the sponsorship deals to turn into what it is. It is a mega operation, extremely successful, entertaining, big corporate money. It is a proper series. The complete opposite happened as these in Australia. These two sports existed in Australia. You have drift, you have time attack. Time attack, headed up by Ian Baker, was very well managed. It was well respected and continued to build year after year. And the drift scene is nothing like it is in Australia, like the time attack scene. The time attack scene took off. And what Ian did, is he gave people a reason to build a car. Even if it's just one event a year, they can get in the shed, they can build the car. They know the spectators are going to be there. They know the caliber of the event's going to be there, because you don't want to spend $2 million on a car to show up and it's a track day. That ain't it. You just look around, you're like, I did this for that. Like that doesn't feel right. But the atmosphere at World Time Attack, it's like, okay, the caliber of the cars are good. The spectators are here. The sponsors are here. Like I'm able to justify, I'm not making money, but I'm able to justify the time and energy that I'm putting into this because it's being reciprocated, right? We have views on the live stream. We have spectators through the gate. I'm getting sponsorship support for this vehicle. It's a great ecosystem that he's created, much like the Formula Drift has happened in the U.S. A lot of those sponsorship deals and stuff came from a good base foundation. And so you had two things that took off at the same time. One was mismanaged in the U.S., which was time attack, and it just stifled the entire growth, where it was managed really well on the drift side of things, and they grew to success. And in Australia, the opposite happened. Time attack was managed really well, taken care of. And the investment happens from the inside out, because Ian put everything he had into it year after year and showed that the commitment to the competitors, the sponsors. He was able to grow on it year after year and build this international event that people all over the world are spending lots of money and lots of time and lots of effort to build a car to go across the planet to race in this one event a year. And that certainly can happen in the U.S., but the timeline for it to happen just hasn't been the same, right? So as we have all these competitors traveling to Sydney to partake in this one event a year, we have all these talented car builders in the U.S. And drivers that want to be a part of something like that. They're like, oh, I'd love to be a part of it, but like, the trip to Sydney, I don't know, and it's like, people are kind of on the fence. It's not that they can't do it; it's that they haven't been given the reason to do it. So the thought of teaming up with Ian to bring a World Time Attack event to the U.S. came about because Time Attack needs it. Globally, Time Attack needs it. For the top competitors in Australia to be able to come to the States and run at a circuit here and throw down, it's like clean slate, new records, right? New benchmarks, new tracks, new challenges. That is super intriguing because they've been running at the same venue for over a decade now. So be able to take these finely tuned weapons and expand onto another circuit while still being able to, run in Sydney, and then say, okay, well, let's do two major events a year. We can do one in the States, we can do one in Sydney, and keep that momentum going in Sydney and bring these teams from all over the world, whether they want to go to Sydney or someplace in the States. It invigorates the builders and gives them that much more confidence. Like, hey, we can do this, and this is something that I want to do. And maybe past international competitors that it's like, okay, went to Sydney a couple times, been there, done that. If we're able to bring something to the States, they're like, cool, I'm in. And so,
sure.
there's teams in Europe, all over Japan, New Zealand, Australia, the list goes on, and it's there. We just need to give them the reason to do it and put on a proper show. It needs to be entertaining for the fans. It needs to be fulfilling for the team owners and drivers that put so much into it, and they have to see some sort of ROI, right? If they're going to put millions of dollars into their vehicle, they don't want to show up to a track day. They want to show up to a proper professional event and get the eyes on the car and go against top level cars. You have to bring out. You don't want to just go beat up on some club racer. You want to know that you're going against some of the fastest cars in the world at any given event. So these cars are time bombs. They're extremely expensive to operate, and they're on the absolute limits everywhere. And so if you're going to go through the effort to get that car, take it out, put it on track, it better be a really good reason to do that.
Yeah. Do you think that the U.S. time attack, even though it has it slumped, do you think it's moving in the right direction now these days?
100%.
Do you think it's back on the rise? Yeah.
100%. Okay. What needs to happen is just something to put it over the edge, because like I said, the builders exist, the cars exist. They just need to say, okay, what's the mission objective? When a bunch of Aussies come over and wipe the floor with Americans, we're not going to stand for that. It is not. We're not going to stand for that. Right. But when you go down there and eat humble pie, just with these super talented teams that are down there, the Aussies are punching well above their weight class in quality of car builds and time attack, because they've been at it a long time. It's not that we don't have the capabilities to do it. It's that we haven't, given them the good reason and the venue to go to and throw down, and know that, hey, the best teams from around the world are coming to your backyard. Are you just going to let them show up and take it? Right? Or are you going to get in the shop and build the car and do it right? Are you going to have professional level aerodynamics? Are you going to have over 1,000 wheel horsepower that's reliable? It doesn't take much to motivate people, because they want to do it. And if they have the coin, they can do it. You just got to give them a reason to do it. So these people exist all over the U.S. You think about the entire population of Australia, right? That is less than just Southern California alone. The entire population of all of Australia.
That's wild.
Smaller than just Southern California. So if they can host an event like that in a small amount of population, it can definitely be done here. And there's so many talented car builders in the U.S. And what I've seen from Time Attack is the drag race guys are interested, right? The circuit guys are interested. The aerodynamicists are interested. All the people that are in pro racing are drawn to it, because like, wait, hardly any rules. Oh, I get to build this particular car that I like. There's no BOP, like run all the horsepower you want. Like there's a few aero limitations, a few tire limitations. Like you're just giving them the creativity that they've always wanted to have in professional motorsports. And the drag race guys are like, yeah, I'm in. I can make 1,300 horsepower on an SR20. I'm in. So it just brings people from all different forms of motorsport to throw down. And it's like the drag race guys get it. It's a lap time. They're like, okay, it's a time, right? Let's go for that time. Like, how much can we squeeze out of this thing? The circuit guys definitely get it. What I've seen is a lot of a huge emergence of F1 fans, right? Out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And it's obviously Drive to Survive has had a huge impact on that. But now I'm talking with neighbors, right? People that really aren't into cars, but they watch Drive to Survive, and now they're F1 fans, and now they're talking to me about qualifying, how exciting qualifying is. And qualifying was the most exciting thing to happen in Monaco. Well, qualifying is Time Attack. Yeah, that is a relatable thing. And so it's this super simple thing that people from all forms of motorsport can understand. People that are moderate car enthusiasts for their particular brand can see that type of car on track. And this exists, and it's in the culture all across the way, from your casual observer that watched Drive to Survive to your drag race engine builder that wants to do something else, make a bunch of power, but in a different, form or fashion. So all the ingredients are there. We just have to give them the platform to which they can experience it at the level that they expect.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think to your point that you made earlier, which is you have to have that carrot, right? You have to give people a reason. And I think even just looking here in the US, like you look at Life, your GTR, you look at what Ferris has done, you look at even, Eric Fleming now, he's really starting to push, but it's like, you guys are pushing, but that's really it. And even at Super Lap Battle, that 2-minute barrier has been there, and that's always sort of been something that I know you guys have wanted to break, but I can only imagine that the fire would burn even brighter if you have all these other international people come and they start breaking the record. And now, that just gives you that little bit more to push, to build your car, to find funding. Well, we always wanted to do this, or we need to do that, or, and people may be more interested in the funding now because now they're like, well, now we have this event going on, right?
It's a whole ecosystem. It all has to feed into each other. And there's no shortage of people building stupid, crazy cars, right? But they're just, they liked 69 Camaros because their dad had one when they were in high school, or whatever the story is. And now they've got some money and they want to build the craziest version. Well, what do you do with it after? There's all these crazy street cars, right? And it's like, what do you do with this thing? If you can say, well, let's go do a time attack event once a year, twice a year. We're going to go and do this crazy one-off event. You're not asking somebody to dedicate to a whole season of traveling around the country to go and run this thing. Yeah. They get to tinker on the car. So they get to build the wildest version of it. And so giving people the place to go and run that car, they're like, oh, now this car has a purpose. It wasn't just some wild idea with no end in sight. It's like, now this is a time attack car, right? And there's plenty of cars out there like that, and plenty of people that want to build stuff like that. But they just haven't been given that reason. They haven't been, shown that, hey, there's a legitimate event that's world-class that you can partake in and go and show this wild machine off. And guess what? You don't have to worry about racing at wheel-to-wheel, people smashing into you. If you drive off track, it's your own damn fault. Nobody drove you off the track. Like a lot of the fear of wheel-to-wheel racing, where somebody has a crazy build, but they're like, oh, I don't want to be on track with anybody else. Like, well, time attack's your answer. You get to build the wild car. You get to wheel the thing around the circuit in front of tons of fans and sponsors and proper live stream and all that. It's a really comfortable place for people to land and take some of these wild projects. And those wild projects are what get people through the gate. Most people that want to be entertained and see the spectacle, right? And there's much more than that. But then the fact that you got your local Honda guy that's been working on his car and building a lower level car, well, he gets to be on the same track on the same day. And he's going to get a lot of respect from other fans and competitors as well because of what he's been doing. And that's the spirit of time attack encapsulated right there. Everybody gets a shot at it, and every build is respected because we're all out there putting it on track. And at the end of the day, like, lap times matter. It definitely matters. But I'd love to see old, like, classic cars that I dig, I'm down with, that I want to see out there. I don't even care what the time is. I want to hear this naturally aspirated B series at 9,000 RPM. He's only doing 105 miles an hour, but he's screaming his heart out. Like that just feels right, man. And so that's the spirit of time attack. That's what people come to see. And the high build cars, those crazy cars, are quite the spectacle, right? The sound, the feeling, visually how they choose to build it out is really, really special. But that same effect gets trickled down all the way to the lower classes, where everybody's being entertained and having a good time and has a good reason to be there.
Yeah, totally agree. Because like even this, last couple years, it was so cool seeing Mighty Mouse out there versus, crazy Sylvia S15, right? You've got your GTR out there, and everybody's running these incredibly fast times with very different tools, right? Very different ways of building them. All with that being said, like those are incredible machines, but you also get to see, like the Subaru you ran last year. I mean, v- super cool car, still super cool to see out there. Not as crazy of a build, but there's so many of those types of kind of more mild builds with a lot of different variety of cars, and it's just so much fun to see what people bring out, and then they get to run and see, here's the time I set, I'm giving it everything I've got, I'm giving it everything the car's got, let's see where we fall.
Yeah.
And I mean again, like that's time attack, that's why we love it so much.
Yeah, and time attack's great like that because most that Subaru, for example, the Coore Racing team that I've been running with, I'm running that car again in open class this year, and really looking forward to it. And being a big Subaru guy, I love GCs, I love time attack. I think it's just a work of art. And 99% of the time, it's a show car, right? He gets it out on track and he runs it around himself. But when all the fans get to show up and see this beautifully prepared car that's really relatable, it strikes a chord with them.
Right.
Out on track at full song, ripping through the gears, and then during the pit walk they get to come close and like see all the bells and whistles on it, everything that makes it special. Like that's an experience that you can't get anywhere else. You can go and look at a car in a parking lot and like, okay, cool, show car. But when that show car also gets to be the race car on the given day, and they get to witness that, it's a really, really special combination. Because a lot of the time attack cars are, and I love this saying, that goes, not every show car is a race car, but every race car is a show car.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Absolutely right.
It's 100% true. So it's one thing to see a car and think it's pretty and cool or whatever, but when you get to hear it and feel it as it goes by, kind of thing, it strikes a chord. It's a whole nother level of experience that you don't normally get. And with a time attack car, you can have a really nice, tidy car. You're not out there with a bunch of other competitors getting rocks blown at you. You're racing wheel to wheel, rubbing fenders, tearing up your car. You can have a really, really nice car that you care for and keep really clean, and still go throw down a flyer of a lap. Time attack gives you the ability to do that without having to flog the machine completely. So very rare do you see such pristine cars out on track at full song, going for it.
Right. Well, speaking of some wild builds, I hear there may be one going to World Time Attack Challenge this year. You got any news?
I got
anything
some
else
news,
that you
man.
want to? Anything else that you want to throw down?
Breaking news. So yeah, this year I'm driving with the guys at Horizon Motorsport, and if you're familiar with them, that's a 1973 TransAm. It's the SEMA show and the Vibrant booth. Kind of debuted there publicly. It's a father-son team. Russell and Cameron been working on this thing for almost 5 years.
I'm gonna for all of our viewers on YouTube.
Check that thing out.
You can check their Instagram out at Horizon Motorsports, Horizon_Motorsports _LLC. Dude, this thing is sick. I'm so excited that you're gonna get to drive it. Keep telling us about it.
It's an unbelievable machine. So father-son team. Dad worked in IndyCar. Son's an engineering student at Purdue, focusing on motorsport engineering, and the car is just an absolute. They caught some flack online because when the car debuted, it was at a show, right, not on a racetrack. Some people are like, "Oh, it's a show car. It's not a race car." No, I can tell you that thing is an absolute race car. I had the opportunity to test it the other day before it got put in the shipping container. And it is the most interesting hybrid of IndyCar and GT car that I've ever had the pleasure of being around. It's a very, very meticulous build, very well thought out. 1,350 horsepower capable, twin turbo, paddle shift sequential, good amounts of downforce, just extremely nice build. and we're debuting at World Time Attack. That's the first competition event that it's ever going to be a part of. Very stoked to be a part of the team and be entrusted with that, because it is an irreplaceable piece of equipment. It's one of one. Everything on it is hand built, and I've never driven any car like it. It's front mid engine, meaning an extreme version of front mid engine. The engine only maybe 6 inches out from the bottom of the wiper cowl. It is
Wow.
tucked back there. So as I was driving the thing, like the engine is on my leg, right? I'm against the engine. It's a rear transaxle, two big turbos in the back, and it's just an absolute beast. So these guys have done a phenomenal job on building it, and I'm super excited to be a part of the team and be able to debut this thing in front of the world at World Time Attack. It's just the beginning, right? There's plenty of work to be done and improvements that they have planned for it, but you just got to get it out on track, see where it ends up, and make improvements from there. But it's certainly a world-class build. This goes back to exactly what I was saying about Time Attack cars in the U.S. These cars exist. People are working on things like this, and don't really know what to do with it. It's a funny story with these guys. It was originally started. It was going to be like a track day car. I think they had a $30,000 budget in mind, and they were going to build a cool track day car out of it. And it morphed into an Indy car with a steel Pontiac Trans Am body on it. Just absolute work of art these guys have created. So this to me is again the spirit of Time Attack. How cool a father and son get together to build this thing from the ground up and really build some cool stuff, man. It's just super unique. Everything on the car, everything's hand built. Nothing hasn't been thought of or considered in the build of this car, and it shows when I drove it. Like it's nothing else I've ever driven drives like this. Just the way the weight is laid out, the packaging of everything. They did a stock change in the pits in like 5 minutes. I was like, it's like a 2-hour ordeal on the GTR, and we got to realign it kind of thing. So
you're going to have lunch, and they're like, "Hold on, you got to get back in the car, man. We're done."
That's exactly how it went down. So extremely excited to be joining up with those guys and see what the car can do. Right, it's the first outing, so I want to be really respectful of the car and take care of it, make sure I don't go driving it through the grass, but. We expect it to do pretty well for its first outing and learn a lot about it and continue the development. And the plan is to continue to time attack that car, right? To continue to run events and further the development. They are super talented, the two of them. I'm sure the car will go as far as they want it to go. But the base car that I drove the other day is the best out of the box car that I've had the pleasure of driving. When you do something that complicated, you can have the tendency to outsmart yourself and really put a can of worms, right? Where do you even start to dial this thing in? But they did such a good job on it that it was extremely well balanced. The power band was really linear. It was nice to drive. I didn't do anything odd. So it's a great base package to start with. I think the guys did a stellar job and look forward to debuting it to the world at World Time Attack this year.
You picked one hell of a event to debut it at, but you know
it's
what?
If
you're going to do it,
you
might as well just go ahead and go.
It's what that car deserves, man. You just can't take that to your local track day and show it to the world. And I think the people down there are really going to appreciate it because they've seen it all. And I think that it's going to turn a lot of heads just because it's done some really unconventional stuff. As far as the way they've plumbed stuff and routed stuff and done the layout, it is nothing else like it in the world. And I'm excited for all the builders. I want to impress the people that I look up to, right? It's great that the fans are going to like it, but when I walk up and down the pits and I see all the homies that have been, building cars for decades and driving, top level cars, I know they're going to be impressed. And just happy to be affiliated with that program and for for Kevin and his father Russell to be able to show off all their hard work. It's a place that just really deserves to be.
That's awesome. Once you guys decided to go, I have not delved into the World Time Attack Challenge rule book all that much. Were there some changes or any tweaks that you had to do to the car to make sure that it was going to be compliant with the rule set, or was it pretty much fine the way it was?
So it could have landed in a lower class except for the engine location. So the engine location puts us in pro class automatically.
Okay.
So the original plan was for me to drive in pro class and Kevin to drive in pro-am, because he's an engineering student, an aspiring driver, and I want to continue to work with him to get his driving skill up to where he's competitive in the car as well. But it only fits in the pro class rules. So we'll be co-driving together in pro class. That's just where it lands due to engine configuration. Another car that's going to World Time Attack is Bando, his Soarer, from Japan. He also, even though he qualifies as pro-am, because of his engine location, his car build, it pushes him into pro class. So he's more of like an am driver, gentleman driver kind of guy that normally would fit in pro-am, but due to his engine location, it pushes him into full pro class. So that's what pushes that car into pro class. Otherwise, it could probably move down a notch.
Yeah. So what is left of the original car? Because I know that there at least has to be some portions left.
That's a great question. You know what's super surprising about the thing? It's all the factory steel body.
Really? I mean,
it's all steel.
Still,
I'm so used
really?
to carbon cars. I wouldn't tap on the thing.
Sure.
I'm like,
yeah.
This is all magnetic. It's like steel. There is a lot of factory car. Obviously, they clearance the firewall to get it back, but like there's floor pans, roof, like all the external body is steel factory body.
Okay.
So
they just modified the factory body. They didn't just completely produce their own new custom body pins.
Yeah.
Okay.
The doors are like 200
wild.
pounds. It is ridiculous. So there's huge weight savings to be had by going with a carbon body.
Sure.
Those guys pushed so hard. They didn't know that they even wanted to go to World Time Attack. Well, they knew they wanted to go, right? But they didn't even start thinking about it until maybe around November. They're like, okay, we can do this thing. And, Ian's invited us down, and it's a thing, right? And then it started to get more serious, and then they were like, oh crap, well, we want to improve all these things on the cars. And those dudes have been in the shop for months, like seriously months, making improvements and changes and chipping away at it and trying to get as much downforce out of it. Because in the big scheme of Time Attack Pro Class cars, that is maybe 40% of the amount of downforce that it needs to win the thing. So it's still a good amount of downforce, but it's not at the same level as the other cars. It's very well thought out. It is extremely well balanced, but the overall downforce numbers are not what you would expect from a pro class car. But they've done everything they could in a few months to really get the thing sorted. And I had it out on like a true circuit for the first time. That was kind of the debut of the car, as they were passing through Utah to get to the port, right, to ship the car. So the commitment was made to go. So pending, a good shakedown test, and I didn't say, hey, this thing's junk, go try again. It was headed to the port. So we had a great shakedown. The car did phenomenal. The guys did a really good job of getting it to that stage, and it was very quick. So I'm excited to see what it can do, not only at World Time Attack, but the future of that car. And there's a lot of other cars out there like that. A lot of people that want to build cars like that are in the U.S. So I can only see this car inspiring not only drivers and builders in Australia when they see it, but all across America, knowing like Time Attack doesn't discriminate. You can take a 73 Trans Am, dude, and build a pro car.
Yep.
Like it doesn't, they don't care. It doesn't matter. Like it's all the same stuff. It's just how you put it in there. What's your weapon of choice? and how are you going to build it out? What class are you going to build the rules to? And I just love time attack for that reason to bring out. You see this car behind me on
There we go.
that's it.
The old big diesel boy
diesel
right there.
GTR. We put a 6-liter Power Stroke compound turbo in an R35 GTR. So it's
rolling smoke.
Yeah, so maybe that thing will be out for some time attack events this year too. I'd love to get him down to World Time Attack, get the diesel record, But time attack's so rad for stuff like that. You can have a 73 Trans Am in Pro Class and go out and be competitive. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive car. We'll see how it does the first year, but I have all the faith in those guys that they can take it as far as they want it to go. But it's a fantastic initial starting point.
Yeah, you confident enough to make any claims on times, or are you gonna save that till later?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that online.
All right,
we've made some speculations. We ran at my local track here in Utah, and I know where I am benchmark wise versus Sydney, and it's pretty comparable. And so.
Okay. You're optimistic.
Yeah. I was very respectful of the car. We kept it on low boost. We're going down there to learn and make improvements. It's in no way going to go down and win Pro Class. We do not have that expectation. Sure. We want to go down, have a good showing, learn a lot, debut the car, and come back with a list of things that we can learn from and improve on. So I think it should be pretty comparable to like a Sydney lap.
Very nice. Very nice. Are you guys going to have enough time to kind of get down there and get everything situated? Just in terms of sort of what's the timeline for prep and to get to Sydney and then kind of get the car sorted out. Have you kind of got space lined up, worked through the car? And I guess I'm saying that, but also in terms of what do you normally suggest for World Time Attack, right? If someone wants to go and is thinking about going, how early do they need to get down there? Is that like a week, 2 weeks? Is it sort of like a Pikes Peak, right, where you're there a couple weeks beforehand, kind of getting acclimated and getting things ready?
Well, it really boils down to team budget and car preparation before winning the container. So I don't suggest this, but my first year, 2015, I sent an unfinished, untested car. And the plan was show up 3 weeks early. Ian helped line up shop space. We were going to finish out the car. Well, the port held the car for almost 2 weeks due to some customs junk. So I paid a whole team to sit around on their hands for 10 days. They had a good time exploring Sydney. But that last week of prep to finish the car was a nightmare. And luckily we had so much help from the guys at Hypertune and WiseFab. Risto flew in from Estonia to help set up the suspension. It was really, really tough go. Even though we planned to be there early, we spent the money, we did the thing. It was just the port didn't release the customs down there, didn't release the car. So it all depends on how early you get down there. These guys are going to show up about 10 days early. With more than enough time to take care of the short list of things that needed to be addressed on the car. So there was like they want to switch to a different ECU, a different Motec that their engine calibrator has set up with some different functions and stuff like that. So just a plug and play kind of swap. They want to make some changes to the diffuser. It's got this blown diffuser that's really cool that they want to reinforce. And then there is a shifting. It's got a pneumatic paddle shifter, so something on the air compressor needs to be addressed, wiring or something like that. So just really a few things that they want to get done and sorted, and they're going to get it done early and have plenty of time. And these guys are real professionals, so I anticipate that when we hit the car on the Thursday practice days, all those things are going to be addressed, so we can go find out when the next week link is.
Okay, nice. And I mean, I guess there's always the opportunity for someone to just pick up parts and jump on a plane and head down there, fly down to Sydney. I mean, you wouldn't know anything about that.
Dude, it is one of one. AD car suspension, like, it is insane what those guys had done. And it's good and bad thing. It's extremely optimized and very lightweight, very trick, but you you can't just find parts. And they sent down containers, like true professional grade, like IndyCar level containers with all the spare parts and stuff that they have. So they have 3 different types of brake compounds and different calipers and like all that stuff. They sent it all down. It is like one of the most professional teams in time attack, that's for sure. And if it was like unique to that car, they probably sent it down, or there's no more in existence, kind of thing. We're
Sure.
gonna go have to the chunk
Yeah.
of magnesium to machine or something like that for some of these things.
Golly, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is
That's awesome.
super cool car in that regard, but there's certain parts that you just cannot build or duplicate in any short period of time. But they did a great job of packing up a very extensive spares package.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it, and I was actually just trying to kind of look and see. All right, so what? Yeah, we're 2 months out. September, beginning of September, September 5th and 6th is World Time Attack Challenge 2025.
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be awesome. Well, so one final question for you, and this is something we ask a lot of the guests that come on here, which is, if we stick to just the U.S., what is your favorite time attack track that you have competed at, or that you would want to compete at? Which one do you think is the best in the U.S.?
Sonoma.
All right. I don't think we've heard that one before.
Yep, Sonoma's my favorite. Laguna's pretty close. I like Laguna.
Okay.
I did NAFSA Nationals time trial class. I did good.
All right.
I had an opportunity to do that. I also went to Sonoma for Global Time Attack. Went there a long time ago.
Yeah.
So Sonoma
Okay.
is just a special place. It flows really well. I prefer driving it over Laguna. So that is just kind of a special place to me. A lot of history there. That's a real beautiful track as a driver. It's my favorite track to drive in the U.S.
Okay.
And, a couple different configurations to choose from that adds spiciness levels to it. So, yeah, Sonoma's a really, really special place to me.
Okay. What characteristics or aspects of the track do you think makes a good time attack track? And I guess compare that to something like Sydney Motorsports Parks, COTA, Sonoma, some of these other, bigger ones. What do you think a good time attack track needs, and what do you think it doesn't need, or what do you think it shouldn't have?
So I don't think Nürburgring is a good time attack track.
Okay, fair enough.
I love Nürburgring.
Fair enough.
Don't get me wrong, but it's not. Nürburgring to me is a tarmac rally circuit more than a time attack.
Sure. Yeah.
So to me, a good time attack circuit is going to have high-speed corners. It's going to have some elevation, some, uphill, downhill braking zones. It's going to have tight, low-speed corners where aero doesn't play in, as well as some high-speed stuff. So I think any combination of those makes a good time attack track, and it allows for different cars with strengths or weaknesses to shine on different parts of the circuit, different aero balances. Somebody that's real high downforce versus low downforce can really make up time in different sectors. Sonoma was one of those tracks. Tons of elevation change. You have high speed sections, you have tight corners, you have constant radius stuff, like it's uphill braking, downhill braking, blind corners. There's kind of all aspects of driving and car setup kind of piled into one type of configuration, just to level the playing field. Because if you have some super flat, smooth circuit with a bunch of high speed corners, some IndyCar type, bias circuit, that's the compromises aren't there for some of the low speed setup and stuff like that. And I'd rather see a circuit that doesn't favor just one type of vehicle setup, that you're finding that you have to make compromises on. Maybe your ride height has to be a bit higher because it's bumpy, or there's this, you're braking into a tight uphill section, or you can't lay this amount of power down in a low speed corner, kind of thing. So I like it to be, all of the ingredients to vary the setup to make it challenging, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing that I guess I'm a little surprised at is Sonoma doesn't really have a long straightaway or one of any real length. It's got sort of some bending, not so straightaways, but
So I've done
it's not.
140 at Sonoma miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that was on the front straight to the uphill, and then you can go even faster. I think I did 147 on the back straightaway.
Okay.
So
okay. And what car was that?
it was a GTR.
Okay.
And
So that's reasonably quick.
yeah,
but,
versus
but
160. I got a lot of drag in that thing. So like City Motorsports Park on 160. So a 13 mile an hour difference isn't a huge difference. I think we've been dealing with Coda too much, where we have these constant straightaways.
Yeah.
And so that kind of skews things. Coda's cool. It's got its certain aspects of the track, but it's not a special track to me. It's special because it's an F1 track, and the quality of it is really nice, but it's not a top 5 track for me in the US. It's like, hey, I'm choosing to go and drive. Coda's not a top 5.
Yeah.
So that's that's just a personal opinion. And Sydney is a little bit faster because you have the front straight through turn 1, and then the rest of it's really wild.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other place that you're reaching that same type of speed. But heading really to turn 1 at Sonoma, like turning in there takes some gusto, and then depending on which configuration on the back straightaway, the kink, I forget which turn number it is. Maybe it's 10. Oh, I forget. It all runs together, but there's the wall on the left side. You come through there before you get to like the last corner, and it is a pucker moment. You just really have to think about putting the power down. It's less hairy in the high downforce cars, but in like the mid downforce cars where they have a bunch of power but not the downforce to really lean on, it's sketchy. So I like it. It's hair raising. There's enough challenging corners there. It doesn't have some of the flat out straight line speed, but it's one of those tracks that flows so well you're constantly setting up for the next corner. You're not Coda, you're having coffee 2 different parts of the track. You're just ripping the engine out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like your car's too slow.
Well, it's too much drag,
Okay, all right.
And it boogie's pretty good, but it's just like those are long straightaways. You're just revving the thing out. So, it doesn't flow in the same way Sonoma flows. Like Sonoma, when you get in the rhythm there and you connect it all, it's just like you're constantly on it, and you don't like have a chance to break for coffee kind of thing, which I really like. It's a really rewarding place to drive, and it takes some time to figure out the blind corners and off camber stuff, and uphill downhill braking zones. It's just a really rewarding place to drive, and it's rewards a well-rounded vehicle setup.
Nice. I don't disagree with you there. Well, Cole, gosh, we've been going for an hour and a half now, maybe even a little bit longer. Where can people get in touch with you, see what's going on? Let's say they want to follow you and Horizon down to World Time Attack Challenge. How can they do that?
Definitely. It's I'm on there as Cole the Racer on Instagram, Facebook,
All right.
Cole Powelson. On Instagram, also Life Motorsport is the page I've post a bit of my racing stuff through. Some of the different projects that I'm involved in. And this year I'm competing in 2 vehicles, the Horizon Motorsports TransAm in Pro Class. I think it's Horizon Motorsport or Horizon_Motorsports LLC.
Yep.
It's their Instagram handle. And then I'm racing the Coore racing team, Subaru, in open class. So you can find those guys on Instagram, Facebook. Really high quality GC8 build. A lot of cool bits on that thing as well. So easy to find in any of those locations. And we're going to do a better job of putting stuff out on YouTube. And obviously, World Time Attack does a great job on their socials as well. So it'll be easy to kind of tag along there, check out the live stream, real high quality live stream. A lot of good intel and information for people to follow along on this journey.
Absolutely. It is what every, I think, organization strives to be in terms of, Time Attack here in the U.S. World Time Attack Challenges, just above and beyond. It's an incredible stream. They do such a good job with it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be associated with those guys and now working with them. It's really a dream come true, and my passion lies in Time Attack, and the better job I can do to bring that quality of Time Attack to the masses. Everybody's going to thrive and really enjoy the sport. We'll get new people into the sport. Partners and sponsors are going to get a better return on that stuff, and it's just going to continue to grow and flourish. And I think there's a bright future for Time Attack, not only in the U.S. but globally.
Glad to hear you say that. We're excited. Thank you, Cole, so much for coming on. I mean, we really, truly appreciate it. You're an absolute legend here. You've done so much for the sport. Looking forward to cheering you on at World Time Attack Challenge, keeping up with you for the rest of the year. Be sure and follow us, the podcast, on Instagram. You can follow us at Perfect Lap Podcast. We're going to be posting up a bunch of stuff as World Time Attack Challenge gets closer. We've also got some other Grid Life. We've got some other Global Time Attack events coming up, so we'll keep you guys updated on all the Time Attack that's going on. You can also check out our website, perfectlappodcast.com. Be sure and email the show if you want to have, if you have any comments for us, or if you have any particular subjects or topics that you want us to cover. We always enjoy making content that we know you guys will enjoy listening to. You can email the show at maximumattack@perfectlappodcast.com. Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. As always, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Cole Powelson. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.